So the Bombers injury list is out, updated as it is every Tuesday. We're going to take a quick look at it as there's a couple of additions to it, but also talk about, perhaps more importantly, what it means for next year and what it means for the pre-season, and are these players' preparations going to be compromised. So we're going to talk about that in this video.
On Windy Hill, they may try to break our spirits. They may try to get the best.
So Ben Hobbs, firstly, has got groin soreness. He's only going to miss 1 week, so he is going to come out of the side. I think this opens up the possibility for Sado Hooley or someone like that to probably come in. It's, I think that with these injury updates, it's probably quicker to list who's actually available. It would probably make for a quicker video rather than just listing those that are injured. There are 14 players on the injury list. So, so Hobbs, a groin injury, just a short-term thing. He'll be back next week. Once again, another soft tissue injury. So, is that anything to do with the club? Is it just Ben Hobbs? I don't think he has a history of injury anyway. But nevertheless, he will miss a week. Nate Caddy is going to miss with soreness for this week. Now, I'm a bit suspicious as to whether they're just resting him. Or I guess if he was rested, they would just say rest. But there's been some talk that Nate Caddy, because he's a bit banged up this year, big key forward down there, dealing with a lot of crash and bash packs every time he's going for marks. There's been some suggestion that he might be rested, which is going to open up the opportunity for Laim McMahon, who will be making his debut. The club has announced, so that's good for him. So whether Caddy is really injured or whether he's sore, he's listed as soreness. Right, so really, you'd think if it was a really important game, he'd probably play. They're probably just resting him, I'd think, and I would suspect he would be back next week. They've only listed it as 1 week. Kyle Langford, quad 4 to 5 weeks. This is basically season over. As we know, he, probably won't be affected with the preseason or anything like that. He should be right at the end of the season to, resume from rehab, get his month off before he gets back into it. Will he be trade bait? Probably. I think there's probably only 10 to 12 players on our list who are untradeable. I think the other 30 or so are all considered to be traded, possibly. Doesn't mean they will be, and or delisted. Langford's one of those, so we'll see where that leaves him. Caldwell, syndesmosis, 6 to 7 weeks, season over for him. As we know, he is a required player, still young and one of our best, and you would hope that his pre-season isn't compromised too much. It shouldn't be. 6 to 7 weeks, he should be over it. He's still young. Darcy Parish, calf injury. So really with Parish, your guess is as good as mine what goes on with Parish. I have no idea. Everyone has different opinions on him. When he's at his best, he's a good player. We all remember his 2021 season where he came, was right up in the Brownlow medal count, but he just hasn't been able to get on the field. So what do the club do with him in the off-season? Do you stick with him? Do you, just focus on getting his soft tissue injuries right and have another crack at it? Put him up for trade, see what offers are out there, but then again, who's going to be willing to take on an injured midfielder who's got 4 years left on a pretty, expensive contract? I don't know who'd be interested in that. There's always talk that because he's from Geelong originally, he's from the Geelong region, Geelong have always kind of been linked with him. But, you just don't know, especially with the TBC to be confirmed, we just don't know how bad this soft tissue injury is. Otherwise, they would have listed a number of weeks for him. So how that affects him next year in his preparation. Like, for example, this year, he was injured for the whole first portion of the year, including during the pre-season. There was back injuries, there was calf injuries, just nothing was right. So they've really just got to determine, and look, the doctors will get into it, I'm sure, but they've just got to determine whether he's able to play a full season. It doesn't have to be 22 games, but whether he's able to play 16 to 18 games and actually make a meaningful contribution to the club. Harrison Jones, I have actually full confidence that he'll be right. Ankle injury, whilst they can be tough to get over, it won't be a long-term thing, and he should be right to, get right back into it. And I don't think his pre-season will be compromised. Ben Mackay, look, similar to Harrison Jones, neither of these players are able to be confirmed when their actual return dates are, simply because they can't run yet, and until they can run, you can't do it. But there's been no suggestion that Ben Mackay's 2026 season is going to be compromised or anything like that. I think both of those players, whilst they have been permanent fixtures in the starting 18, they are players like perhaps most players on our list that you would, have a look at what offers are out there for them from other clubs and see what you can get, if anything. I don't think too many clubs would be interested in Mackay due to the weight of his contract in terms of money, but you never know. Now, the other 7 players actually are all out for the season. Sam Draper, Nick Cox, Lewis Hayes, Nick Bryan, Zach Reed, Nick Martin, and Tom Edwards. There are 4 ACLs in there, and there is the concussion injury to Nick Cox and, of course, the Achilles injury to Sam Draper. So the Sam Draper one is, worries me a little bit because ruckmen are a little bit like when a basketballer suffers a season-ending Achilles injury, which are quite common in that sport with the jumping. The Boston Celtics player, Jason Tatum, who's their best player, did an Achilles injury towards the end of the playoffs and he's going to miss the entirety nearly of next year. And it's very difficult for these players to get back to their full capability simply because of their jumping and the stress that goes onto it. So I look at Draper, and obviously he may not stay at the club. He may tend to leave, go to Brisbane or Adelaide. That's his call, and we'll get a reasonable pick in the draft if that happens. But even if he stays, I wonder whether his pre-season is compromised due to that Achilles injury. Will he be right to resume and get into full training? He probably won't be able to come back until, at least around the time that he got injured against West Coast, next year, around the same date, sometime in April or May or something like that. So that's something that the club is going to need to figure out. Same with Nick Cox, although Nick Cox, with his injury being a concussion, slightly different situation. The AFL has ticked it off that you're not going to retire him like Jeremy McGovern, and I would like to see him have another go at it. He's a high draft pick, a lot of invested in that, and you want to try to milk everything out of it to make sure you can get everything out of his career before such time as you make a decision as to his future. Most of the other players really, Tom Edwards did his ACL very early in the year. You'd think he would be right to resume early next year. Same with Nick Bryan, who did his ACL injury. Nick Martin, I guess, is the frustrating one. Nick Martin is a very, very professional player. I have absolutely 100% confidence that he will be able to get back to being his best. I guess what is more, not so much concerning, but frustrating is obviously, whilst he will be able to come back around, let's say around this time next year, maybe a month earlier, sometimes you can get back in 11 months from these things. It obviously affects his ability to train and get fit and do a full pre-season to the same ability that he would otherwise be able to do it if he hadn't done the ACL. That is probably the most frustrating thing with this, is that when he does come back next year, at least initially, he probably won't be at his best, because why would you be at your best when you haven't been able to do the same amount of work due to your ACL as other players would. So anyway, that is the injury list for the Bombers. What do you guys think about it? I think I know what you all think about it. We're all as horrified at it as everybody else, but nevertheless, it is newsworthy. It is worth noting. We have Hobbs and Caddy out this week. I am happy to see McMahon make his debut. I've been calling on this for a little while. I think he's going to be a pretty good full forward down there. And actually, I'd probably like to see him replace Peter Wright, who has had a really good season. I like Peter. He's been a really honest toiler for us, but I just don't see him being part of our next, good team. If we are one day to become a top team in a few years, I don't see Peter as part of that. And I look at McMahon as someone in the age bracket, young, in his early 20s, that could still be part of a good Essendon team in a few years. But anyway, I'm going to leave it at that, everybody. I've uploaded a couple of videos today. I hope you've enjoyed this content. Please like and subscribe to this channel if you like this channel. And as always, go Bombers.
Watch the Bombers fly.